Hello and welcome to another podcast by Lilja and Lou. In this episode we will of course have the latest news for you from the Stephen King world, and then we will take a closer look to the first 3 episodes of Haven, and followed by a review of Batman and Robin Has an Altercation, and we will end this podcast with yet another episode of Haven, episode number 4. So welcome to this episode.
Welcome, welcome. Do not fear the door that lies before you. We will protect you. We are your guides, Hans and Lou, and we will give you the latest in Stephen King news. But before we do so, you must prove yourself worthy. You must open the door and join us in the death room.
And we have reached the news from the death room, and today we have 2 bigger news and 1 smaller. And the small one is that Dr. Sleep has now gotten its official website, and that is drsleepbook.com. And there really isn't much there at the moment besides the release date and short description of the book. But I suspect there will be more closer to the release date, which is just under a year away.
Cool. Yeah, a whole year, eh? Jeez, I don't know if I can last that long.
It's not often that we know about a book that far in advance.
Right, yeah. But at least there's 2 books out next year, because he's going to have his Joyland too. So.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to Joyland. I think it could be a great book.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and the first of our 2 big items is StephenKing.com sent out a email in their latest newsletter, and they announced that the Stephen King short story Little Green God of Agony is going to be presented to the fans for free as an online comic, and it'll be posted over at StephenKing.com. And the artist is Dennis Calero. He's the co-creator of X-Men Noir and Devil Inside. And he's doing the adaptation for this, and it will appear in serial form, kind of like the Green Mile, in Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays for 8 weeks, 8 consecutive weeks, beginning October 15th. So this should be a lot of fun, and the fact that it's free is a nice little bonus. So if you go over to StephenKing.com site, you can see an article about it, and there's a sample of some of the artwork, I assume, that's going to be used for that. And if you're not familiar with the Little Green God of Agony, the storyline is Catherine Kate McDonald is a RN hired to care for a wealthy client, Andrew Newsom, who has gone from doctor to doctor trying to find a quick cure for his lingering pain to no avail. She is convinced that he would overcome the injuries he sustained in an airplane crash, but he is unwilling to endure the pain of physical therapy. In desperation, Newsom has hired a healer, Reverend Rideout, who promises to expel his pain. So, it's very interesting.
Yeah, my concern with this one is that it's a fairly short story, and for it to be able to run for 8 weeks, 3 times a week, that's 24 new segments. I suspect that each segment will only be like 1, maybe 2 pages long. I can't really see how the story would make for a bigger comic than maybe 24, 30 pages. So my concern is that,
which is a standard length for a comic book, right?
Yeah, and 1 page isn't much when you read a comic.
Yeah.
So my concern is that most fans might wait until it's all out and read all at once. That takes a bit away for this serialize. Then they can just release it all at once.
I think the thing that's working in its favor is that they've set the schedule for us, and we know that it's going to run for these 8 weeks, and that we're going to get 3 installments each week. So that way you're not waiting for the whole thing to be released at once.
No.
I mean, comics are structured that way, so
Yeah.
yeah.
But I'm comparing. I'm not that much of a comic reader, but I read Walking Dead and some of the Stephen King comics, and I often find that one issue is pretty short, and it's almost always better to read a couple of issues at a time. So I mean, 1 or 2 pages. I think it will be hard to get the flow of the comic. But this is just speculation. I have no idea how maybe we get a 24-page comic 3 times a week. I have no idea.
No, I doubt
So
that.
it's just a guess from my side.
I think your initial assessment is right on. It's probably going to end up being about 24 pages all told. So we'll get like a page a day, which is maybe 8 to 10 drawings.
Yeah.
Maybe even less, depending if some of them are bigger. But this is kind of like the Green Mile. When he released that serialized, I read each one. I didn't wait for all the installments to be released, right? So
No, I did as well. I'm not opposed to the serializing per se, but when you get too small apart and you can't really read it it gives you no flow in the comic if it's too short, and then
that's a great point, because I know I've had that trouble with the Dark Tower comics. It's by the time I get the next one comes out, I can't remember what happened in the one before, and then you have to read it over again. And then it's kind of like you get impatient and lose interest because there's not enough story to keep you going from installment to installment until you have the whole series to read all at once at the same time.
Yeah.
Especially with Stephen King stories, because they're usually so long.
Exactly.
Alrighty. So keep an eye out for that, folks, starting October 15th, which is a nice surprise.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and the last news item is, as usual, Carrie connected.
Yay!
Yeah, I still don't think we haven't had one podcast without mentioning this movie, so we will have to make something up when the movie is done and over.
Yep.
As you might know, there's been the New York Comic Con, and there's been a lot of Carrie talk there. Got the first look at the poster, which I personally don't like. I don't know about you. We got a clip from the Carrie panel. We have the 2 actresses and the director. I just got this, so I haven't had the time to check it out.
The director and the producer.
And then we got at the Comic-Con, they showed us, not us, I wasn't there, but they showed the people there a teaser trailer. And we got a short description of it. It hasn't actually been put on the internet yet. I suspect it will any day now. Maybe when this podcast is out, it's out there. But so far we have only gotten a description of it. And as I said, I'm not really fond of the poster. What's your thought about that?
This is just a pre-release poster. This probably won't be the final poster.
No.
So this is just a promotional poster.
Yeah.
But,
I think they will have problems if they release this one as the final poster. I think it's a little bit too bloody. And I like blood.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah. I must say I like fan-made poster that's been circulating for a while. I actually like that one better.
Oh, okay.
What's your thought about this one?
Well, I mean, we're running into our issues with this would be because the previous Carrie movie, the Sissy Spacek one, has such iconic artwork with it, especially if you have the Knowing Darkness book. There's just fantastic artwork done with Carrie in her prom gown with that wild-eyed look after she's been hit with the pig blood. So it's going to grab people's attention, and I think it's kind of clever that they actually don't say the name Carrie in the poster.
Yeah.
Which I think is, you will know her name. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want this as a final movie poster people see when they're walking in to see it when it opens. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's accomplishing its goal of letting people know that, hey, Carrie's coming back.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not crazy about it.
No, I agree. When I first saw it, I thought it was the final poster, and as a final poster, I don't like it. But as you say, for a Comic-Con, when everybody know what they're talking about, and then it works better. Yeah.
Yeah. So they showed the trailer, and do you want to go into describe a little bit what we see in the trailer? Yeah,
I didn't see it myself, as I said, but the description of it is that it begins with a helicopter shoot showing a school gym on fire, but then the trail of destruction leading through Carrie's small town. ending with a close-up on a bloody covered Mortis. And the teaser feature a cacophony of voices talking about Carrie, including the memorable line, "She wasn't some monster, she was just a girl," implying perhaps that the remake would adhere close to the structure of King's original novel, which was written in a pseudo-epistolary style. Sorry about the pronunciation there.
Epistolary.
Yeah. I'm Swedish, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that short description of the teaser, and the person who's written this is on Entertainment Weekly, say it looks positively apocalyptic. So I don't know. And he also writes, if nothing else, it looks worlds better than The Rage Carrie 2. So
that's not saying much, but
yeah.
Yeah,
I would be nervous if he thought it was worse than Carrie 2.
Yeah. There's a couple of interesting tidbits in the article too, and you can read it over at Entertainment Weekly. We'll post a link to it in the show notes. That Pierce is a friend of Brian De Palma, the director, and he of course directed the original. But this time it sounds like they're going to adhere more closely to the book, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
And one thing that's also interesting is that the director, Kim Pierce, also says that contemporary social media will be incorporated into the movie. And I know that was making you nervous in previous podcasts, Hans, that you don't want her twittering and things like that. No. But it sounds like they're going to incorporate that, and internet bullying is a problem today. So it should be interesting to see how that plays into this remake, especially since her mother is so religious and anti-modern world things. So you have to think that she wouldn't have the internet and things like that. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. The Carrie character might be oblivious to that stuff, but everybody around her might be communicating with one another. So that would be interesting.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't mind so much if, as you say, if the other girls bullied her through Twitter or internet. Mm-hmm. But if Carrie herself is actually tweeting and using internet, as you say, with a mother that's so religious and against everything like that, that would be a disappointment, I think.
Mm-hmm. And one of the cool things is that Juliana Moore apparently has done a little bit of Stephen King reading. So do you want to talk about that section of the article? Do you see that? The most prepared panelist?
Yeah.
It's got kind of a spooky twist.
Yeah, and according to Entertainment Weekly, the most prepared panelist was Julianne Moore, who responded to a question from an audience member about if anyone had read Stephen King's book on writing. And as they continued talking, it turned out that the audience member who asked the question turned out to be a teacher at the school where Moore's child is a student. So that's quite a coincidence based on what movie they were talking about.
Juliana Moore, who is playing the mother, has obviously done her homework, which is always good.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it. Again, it's like you don't want to get your expectations too high, but these coming of age stories are timeless. So it's something that probably more timely today with reality TV than it ever was before. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
it could be good. I'm still a bit worried about them tweeting and stuff like that. But if it's done right, I might have to admit that it could work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm interested to see if they follow the book more closely. This will be almost like a documentary. But I'm glad, and I hope they're not doing it in like that lost footage thing that we've seen in other movies. Seen enough of that.
Yeah.
So
that would be totally wrong.
Yeah, if they want to do it as a documentary, like a warning to the world kind of take on it, that would be cool.
Yeah,
looking forward to it. Should be interesting.
Yep.
That is all the news that we have for this installment.
Yep.
This is great. What's our job? We'd like drive around and pick up stiffs or what?
It's time for reviews from the night shift. This time we're going to be taking a extended look at the Haven TV series. It's been airing, started September, and at the point of this podcast, we've seen the first 4 episodes. We're going to talk about 3 of them now, and we'll add our comments about the 4th one later. Let's kick it off with the first 3 episodes of Season 3 of Haven. We have episodes 301, which is the actual title. The second episode was called Stay, and the third episode was called The Farmer. Now, if you remember at the end of Season 2, Haven ended on a cliffhanger. So we had Audrey being kidnapped, and we had Duke and Nathan duking it out on the boat, and we heard a gunshot. So the episode picks up right from there, and What did you think of the opening sequence?
Well, I wasn't surprised.
Right.
I didn't really think one of them shot the other, but I was a little bit disappointed. I thought it would be something more spectacular happening than them two just fighting.
Right.
But I wasn't surprised. I mean, I didn't really expect some major changes happening there. It was kind of fun to see, though, that the Duke has gotten longer hair. Since we left him in season 2, and I don't know if that's one of his troubles, that his hair grows very fast.
That must have been a long fight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I agree with you. Like you, I wasn't surprised. Kind of anticlimactic, I guess is the
yeah.
best way to say it. It was the bullet goes wild, and they continue to struggle. It was cool that when Duke was choking Nathan, that some of his blood dripped onto Duke's forehead and his eyes turned silver, and he had superhuman strength. So we're getting to see, and we saw this last season, that Duke can get these superhuman powers. And then the next little bit was interesting, where everything seemed to turn metallic, and everything went up to the ceiling.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't really know what that means, but it was a cool effect.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the two cliffhangers gets resolved rather quickly.
Yep.
But I did like the way they handled the Audrey cliffhanger, from how that played over the episode. How about you?
Yeah, that one I liked as well. And I was trying to see who that fellow who shined the light on her and tried to interrogate her, if there were any clues to who it could be, but I couldn't make it out. So I still don't know who it is.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas?
The go-to guy would be Randall Flagg, but I don't think they're going to be allowed to use him. But yeah, so that's something that's still playing out even into the third episode.
Yeah.
What was really cool was the fact that Duke and Nathan actually ended up at the right place, but they didn't know it.
Yeah.
They ended up at the inn, but then they got pulled away by all this other stuff that was going on. And it was interesting with Audrey in the basement being questioned by this guy, and then we hear the owner of the inn, his mother is also down in the basement with him, or her. And I thought that played out nicely. It was kind of like a radio play, because we never saw the mother in the basement, so that was really well done. So you're imagining all these things that are happening to her, and of course Audrey is trying to break away. So I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, I agree. And I must say about the person who interrogates her, I really hope that's someone we know from before. I always get disappointed when they give us some clues to who this might be, and then it turns out to be someone you never seen before.
Right.
I mean, hey, how are we going to figure that out beforehand? So I hope it's someone we know, that maybe one of the newspaper guys or something like that. That would be cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like it has to be a new character to me, though, based on he says he knew the Colorado Kid, and that he loved them. So to me, that it's almost got to be his brother or his father, right?
Yeah. But those newspaper guys seems to know an awful lot about what's happening. So
Vince and Dave, yeah.
Yeah, could have been them. It's their lost brother or father or something. That was the Colorado Kid.
Mm.
Could be.
Yeah, I hope not, though. that would be a little too tightly intertwined.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to play out, and the fact that it sounds like Audrey was in love with the Colorado Kid as well.
Yeah.
Is interesting. And again, at the end of the episode, like plot 301, where the Colorado Kid was buried, he wasn't there, right? So maybe this person is the Colorado Kid that is torturing Audrey. I don't know.
Yeah, and he loves himself a lot.
Yeah.
Might be one of the Vince or Dave that is the Colorado Kid.
Oh, okay.
Could be.
But
can you sense that I really want them involved in some way?
Yes, well, they are involved, but I think they're like the gatekeepers for all the history of the town, right?
Yeah.
So, and we'll probably repeat ourselves as we talk about the other episodes. What did you think of the case of the week?
Well, it was I don't know. It was kind of too big, I think. All the aliens and stuff coming down. I don't know. It has usually been smaller things happening to people in the town, and now all of a sudden there were UFOs and stuff. So I don't know. It wasn't really the best one, I think, but maybe not the worst either. I'm divided.
Right. Yeah, and I think this is going to be a common thread again through the other episodes that we're going to talk about. But we've what I think are the strengths of the show right now is it's the really three lead characters have very interesting story arcs going on.
Yeah.
Of course, Audrey, by the end of the third episode, we find out she's going to disappear in 46 days, which is interesting. Nathan is, well, we already kind of knew his situation from last season. He hasn't really changed too much. Just, I guess, really think that the main thing that's changed for him is his relationship with Audrey. And Duke got the big revelation that his father was like the cleanup guy for the town last year, and he's, or for the previous cycles for when Audrey was there, and now he's inheriting that role and he's getting these powers. So those three characters have really interesting things going on with them, and the trick is to tie in the case of the week to make those stories interesting. And this one doesn't, the UFO one didn't really tie in to it very well for me.
No.
I mean, there was an interesting discussion at the end between Duke and Nathan about Duke wants to kill the guy. And of course, Nathan jumps right on and says, well, yeah, now you just want to be like your dad. He says you want to kill all the troubles. But then Nathan basically talks this guy into giving himself up to the aliens, which maybe he's going to have a nice close encounters kind of visit like Roy Neary did in that movie. But, you know, he could easily end up having a really bad experience.
Yeah.
And there's no way of knowing he's coming back. So in a way, Nathan basically, like Duke was right, he basically sent that guy to his death, as far as we know. Maybe not, but there wasn't really much difference between their two actions there. And the other thing that I didn't really get, and I think this was just revealed this season, right, that now that Nathan has this tattoo on his arm, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't shown to us last season, no?
No.
So that just kind of popped out of the air as well. And I think that should have been something that should have been shown to us, his decision process in deciding to get that tattoo.
Yeah. I think, wasn't it mentioned in episode 3?
Yeah.
Audrey says something that you got this tattoo to get at Duke.
To protect Audrey, yeah.
Yeah, so it sounded like he had just done it like the week before or something.
Yeah. So that's something that happened off camera between the seasons, I guess. But I think that's something that they should have shown us. So
yeah, and it feels pretty strange that they said that the guy with this tattoo is going to kill him, and then he gets one after the fact. So I don't really know where he want to go. Is it just because he want to kill him so bad, or why?
So that's kind of muddled, and I mean, through the series we've seen that Nathan doesn't really trust Duke in that, but does he hate him that much that he would want to kill him?
Yeah.
Like I don't know, the character motivations are a little muddy to me there. I'm not quite, and that's part of one of the problems, especially in the third episode when we get to it, that I have as well. So there's some good things with these episodes. I love where the three characters are right now, but in this first episode, and actually for the other two that we're going to talk about, I have the same issue. The case of the week is not really tying into the characters' story arcs that well for me for the season.
No.
Or they're not being used to their full advantage.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think one of the strengths with this season is that, and we knew this from the interview we had with the showrunners, but that the episodes are connecting each other, not separate episodes like it's been before.
Right.
And I think that will be the most positive with this season, the strength of the season, that it's a thread going through the whole season. And also that they are, in fact, addressing the Colorado Kid. I think it's time to either resolve it and move on to new things, or at least bring it up so it's more present in the series. Because in season 2, I don't think there were many episodes that even mentioned the Colorado Kid. So I think they need to get back to that and resolve it and maybe move ahead of it.
Okay. Yeah, so we have this first episode, and again, I love the closing scenes at the cemetery at Potter's Field where they're digging up plot 301.
Yeah.
They open up the coffin, and surprise, surprise, there's no body in there. And the handwriting, find him before the hunter comes, which is Audrey's handwriting. And the hunter, it is an interesting clue. At this point in the episode, we know by the third one, it's not the mysterious person that captured Audrey. So it's a constellation that comes or a meteorite that comes every 27 years, which is interesting. That's cool, and I like that. And I also like the fact that at the end of the episode, Audrey chews out Dave and Vince for being so secretive all the time.
Yeah,
I thought that was a nice moment as well. So there again, like with some of the character stuff, it is pretty interesting, but.
Yeah.
The case of the week, like if we go into the next one, which is called Stay, and I'm curious, did you like this episode, Is this probably your favorite one out of the three, or?
Yeah,
I
actually,
figured
I
it
like
would
this.
be.
Yeah, I like this best of the three actually.
Yeah, I
Because
figured you would. It's got that zombie vibe to it.
yeah, and at first you don't really know why these people act like they do, and then it turns out that these dogs has been turned into humans, and
Yeah,
I think that was a really good story for the week actually. I
yeah,
like that a lot.
yeah. It
So
was.
it had that moment where you didn't have a clue to what was going on, and I bought the explanation of the. I think that can be a problem sometimes that they succeed with telling us a story and we have absolutely no clue to what's happening.
Right.
But then they don't always manage to convince at least me that the explanation of the story is acceptable. But I think they did with this one, so I think this is definitely the best one of the three first.
Yeah, I think so as well. Even though it has the least forward momentum as far as the character arcs go, but
Yeah.
the actual conceit of the case of the week was interesting because you're trying to figure out. Like at first, I thought they were zombies.
Yeah.
And then as it went on, I said, "Oh no, there's something weird going on here." Then you kind of figure out that they're the dogs. So that was actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
But some of the irritating aspects for me, this psychiatrist character that they brought in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the next episode, they bring in another character. So the show is adding a lot of characters, and I really don't like the role that the psychiatrist is playing in this series so far. We'll talk about it more when we get to the third one, but it's just she's just clogging up the works between the regular characters right now, and the episodes are getting too busy. We got enough with the three main characters to focus on without adding these extra characters. So it's making the storylines harder to follow because of that. But we did get the reveal that the Hunter is actually this meteor storm that comes every 27 years out of the Orion constellation, hence the name the Hunter. So that was pretty cool. And we know that in Audrey's previous incarnations, that's when Sarah and Lucy disappeared, and that the next storm is in 2 months. So now we've got this great dynamic set up with Audrey. Now we've got this clock ticking away, and I like that quite a bit.
Yeah. I'm a bit disappointed that it seems that she's given up. I mean.
Yes.
She has like 46 days or 43, but she seems to have given up and accepted that. Okay, I'll be gone in 43 days. And as Nathan says in, I think it's the episode 3, that she's just given up, and I don't understand why. That's totally not her, I think.
Right. Yeah, I have some other problems with her character in episode 3, but we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, I agree with you. One of the other positives that I want to mention from the first 2 episodes that we haven't talked about, though, is your friend, The Edge.
Yeah.
He was in both episodes, and I thought he was one of the bright spots.
Yeah,
I agree. His character is a very clearly defined purpose within the show. So when he comes on the screen, things are going to get done. And I think one of my favorite scenes in the first 2 episodes is when Duke told him to get that one guy down by the beach that was a dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the guy ended up inside his truck.
Yeah. I agree. I wish they would use him more than they do.
Yeah.
Because I think it works perfect in this series. He isn't in episode 3 at all, so I hope that's not a sign of what's to come, because I think they can benefit from using him.
Yeah. The case of the week was actually probably the strongest in the stay, but in terms of moving the character story arcs, not a lot happened. Like the mystery man from the first episode hasn't really shown up again.
No.
And then we get into the farmer.
Yeah.
I had a lot of troubles with this one.
Yeah.
The case of the week, Audrey's behavior.
Yeah.
The psychiatrist is just becoming more, and we have this new detective coming in. It's another character that we don't really need at this point. Yeah. So, what were your thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I was a bit disappointed with this new character, Tommy Bowen, because I don't think he fits the series at all at this point. He feels totally wrong to me, and I thought it was just going to be in one episode, but judging from the ending of episode 3, it seems like he's going to be present a lot more. Right. Maybe he's the mystery guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
And we actually have one more character that I haven't seen that I get a fishy vibe about, and that's the forensic guy.
Oh yes.
Who I can't remember the name if he ever had one.
Dr. Lucasy.
I get a vibe that he is involved with this more than we get. I think he will play a significant part in during the season.
Yeah, he'll probably be like just kind of like a background guy, and then all of a sudden, boom! That's a big moment in the season. He'll jump up and reveal some amazing piece of information or something like that. So I've got a couple of problems with this episode in terms of the characters. Again, things are muddied up, and probably my biggest disappointment is how Audrey was written in this episode. I don't like the fact that she's not talking to Duke directly about her problems. And we're getting all these conversations between her and the psychiatrist, which to me is just a way for them to let us know what Audrey's thinking, but she's not acting on it, and she's not telling Duke about it, or Nathan about it, which I don't like. I think at this point she says she trusts him, so she should be talking to him about it, and it's no wonder he's mad at her because she's not saying anything, and it just feels like she's giving up. So I find that a cliche that when characters don't talk to each other just to keep the story, the tension going between them. So I don't like that. I would have preferred for her to talk to Nathan about what's going on or what she's thinking about and things like that. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I agree. And because up until then she hadn't really wanted to talk to a psychiatrist either. So and all of a sudden she wants to instead of Nathan. So I agree with you. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's just a stalling tactic. That's all.
Yeah. But I think my biggest problem with Audrey in this episode is that she seems to have given up, and I think that's totally not her character.
Mm-hmm.
She always struck me as the one who never gives up and pushes things ahead, while Nathan might sometimes be more willing to give up. So that really threw me off in this season, actually.
Well, you know what threw me off for her was her actually putting forth the idea to Duke to kill the guy.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like her at all to me either. So I was just kind of like, whoa, that's totally not her character at all. If they wanted to bring Duke's character to a point where he had to kill this guy, I think they could have done that without involving her in it. And I also didn't like the fact that they cut the scene out where he killed the guy and then put it in at the end of the episode as a flashback. And the argument that if you kill this guy, it's going to save a lot of kids. Yeah, but that doesn't sound like an argument that Audrey would make either. Like, this is the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many kind of argument. So I would have much preferred that somehow they would have, and it might have been a bit cliched as well, if they would have set up a sequence where the man was in the process of killing one of these kids, and Duke just happens to comes upon him at that time, and because he's trying to kill the kid, he has no choice but to kill him himself.
Yeah.
And that would have been much better, and then to have him all broke up about it afterwards. But in this one, the guy's just lying there. I mean, why don't they just lock him up? Like, there's no need to kill him.
No,
he's just lying there. So,
he was on the verge of dying, wasn't he? He was his internal organs was failing on him, so he would have died.
So, like, why did he have to do it?
but I can follow her arguments that he was going to die either way. So by having Duke kill him, he would save all these children, God knows how many.
Mm-hmm.
So I can buy the argument, but I would have much more preferred it if it would have been maybe Duke who has back and killed him without telling anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would have worked better if it came from himself, and then after he would be all torn up about it. But I think it would have worked better if he had come up with the idea, Audrey. But being what it is in the episode, I kind of liked the fact that we didn't know that he was sneaking back, that we got that as a flashback.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that added something to the fact that he actually did it for her. I interpreted that he did it because he did it for Audrey's sake more than for the kid's sake. And then he was all torn up about it. And he didn't want to tell her about it either, so she found out by the fact that the kids survived. So I don't know. I like the fact that we saw it in a flashback. But I agree with you that it shouldn't have come from Audrey, the suggestion.
Yeah, I just don't buy that she would say that. I'm seeing that I misremembered that part of the episode. I forgot that the curse was going to pass on to the boy. So from that perspective, I can understand Duke's decision. But I would have much rather preferred that he would have had to kill the guy because the guy was in the midst of killing a kid or something like that. Rather than this guy lying there. It's just, I don't know, it just doesn't sit well with me.
No. And about buying stuff, when Audrey suggests it, Nathan just walks away, and this other cop, Tommy, he just walks away as well. And they are, and he doesn't even know what he's buying, but he's buying it anyway and just walking off, and that's very well with me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been chasing this guy all over the world. No, not all over the world, but big parts of the U.S. And when he finally finds him, he just walks off. No, I didn't buy that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this one I had a lot of trouble with the way Audrey was written. Like you said, her just giving up, her talking to the psychiatrist instead of talking to Nathan, and her being the one to suggest to Duke to kill the guy. I just don't believe any of that.
No.
It all seems out of character to me.
Yeah. There could be one explanation, because now she knows she has only like 46 or 43 days left. And she feels maybe she's getting desperate, and she feels she has to do something. She has to help the people in Haven, and she gets more like, you can kill this one to save all these. Some are going to die, and you're going to do the best of the situation. Maybe she's feeling the pressure that she'll be gone in 40-some days.
Yeah,
that could be a...
That's possible, but then the show should have established that better in the episode.
Yeah.
And they haven't done that. She's just kind of, I don't know, she's just kind of sleepwalking through this episode, and she's not really telling us why she would suggest that to do. We need to be shown that, and that wasn't happening in this episode. So I'm feeling kind of torn here, because I don't like to rag on things, but I guess I just built my expectations up too much over the season, and I'm finding that there's too many characters in the show now. Like, they just added this new cop, Tommy. Yeah. And we've got the psychiatrist, who to me is just there to be a buffer between Audrey and Nathan. So I don't like that. Yeah, I don't know. We're already 3 episodes in, and we got 46 days to find out how to stop Audrey from being taken away. Yeah. She doesn't even seem to want to try. So
no.
It's too bad, because I at this point in the series, I really like the 3 main characters quite a bit. But I think they're being dragged down by all this other stuff that shouldn't be in these episodes.
Yeah, I feel a lot the same that you do. What can save this season is definitely that the episodes will be connected, so you get one long story arc instead of one per episode. Mm-hmm. So I think that might still make this the best season so far, I think. And hopefully, I think the problems I see with these 3 first episodes are, except for the episode 2 then, the weekly cases they are having, that they are slowing down the main story which we want to follow. We want to follow the main story, and we want to see where that one goes, and the other ones are like kind of laying in their way. Mm-hmm. And personally, I think the second one, called Stay, was so good that I didn't mind it staying in the way, but still it stayed in the way, so I can be somewhat forgiving for that one. But I think they need to move the story on, and if they have 46 days play out, they need to get them moving. And you can't distract the main story too much with the weekly episodes, the weekly case.
Yeah,
I think they have to get those to connect more than they have in the first
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's the big trick. Like, they've set up really great character arcs for, well, at least 2 out of the 3 characters. I don't really know what Nathan's story arc is yet, other than to try to protect Audrey from Duke. But when you set up such a powerful main story arc, then the case of the week have to be really good too. Otherwise, you're just getting frustrated. It says, I don't really care about this part of the episode. Let's get back to what's happening with the 3 lead characters. And occasionally you can have like a one-off, which Stay was kind of like that. But because it was something different and new, it felt like the strongest of the 3 episodes. Where these other 2 episodes, especially the UFO one, like X-Files has done that thing to death. So that wasn't very interesting. And it's really tricky to write interesting case of the weeks. They have to parallel what's happening in the main storyline. And I know they're trying to do that a little bit right now. It looks like with Duke, they're trying to work him to his position where he can kill on a regular basis, I'm assuming, or not be so hesitant about it. But for Audrey and Nathan, they're just kind of spinning their wheels right now, and these extra characters are not helping either. So
no. And the risk if they can't get the weekly cases involved in the main story arc, is that we are going back to the same situation we were in the first 2 seasons, that each episode is a standalone episode with just little fill outs, and I hope they don't go to that this season.
Yeah, absolutely, because they've set up this big story arc, so they have to engage us with both the big arc and the case of the week stuff. And it's a tough thing. Like one of my favorite shows right now is Fringe, and they kind of use the same monster of the week, case of the week thing too in their other seasons. And looking back on it now, they've done a much better job of it than they have so far in Haven. I actually even remember back like their previous shows that these guys worked on was The Dead Zone, and those cases of the weeks were usually interesting. So,
yeah.
And not always tied into the main storyline, but the main storyline it wasn't on a clock either. Like I mean, there was a time frame with it, but it wasn't like in 46 days you've got to figure out the solution. Where in that show they had like years. Here, like you're down to like 2 months. So every episode where the case of the week is not addressing that is going to be frustrating.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
what's your overall feeling after seeing the 3 first episodes? Will they succeed in doing the best season so far, or will they?
Well, I think it's going to be an either or. I think it's going to turn out to be the best season, or or maybe the worst. I don't really see much in the middle ground here. Like if they can't pull this off, I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed. So I think they've set quite a challenge for themselves, and I really hope that they can pull it off. We'll have to see. We're 3 episodes in, maybe with the 4th. Now that they've laid things out for us, can start getting into specifics more. So
I feel the same way. I think it will be an either off season. And I'm still hopeful.
Oh yeah, same here.
I think one of my problems with the first three episodes was that the first episode was, even if the case of the week wasn't the best, if you talk about the Colorado Kid, they gave us a lot of information, and I was like, wow, they are really doing this season. They are going to solve the Colorado Kid case. And then there's been less and less and less, and I see a dangerous trend there if they keep that up. So, but I'm still hopeful, but they need to get it together a little bit more than they have so far, I think.
And with a storyline so specific, it's really tough to make the case of the weeks as interesting as the main storyline.
Yeah,
it's like you said, they're gonna. It looks like they're going to give us the answers to a lot of things, and those are the things that we want to see. And the cases of the week, they're going to be tough to be as interesting. So.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to make the case of the week being part of the main storyline. I don't think they can go on having case of the week that has nothing to do with the major storyline. I think they're going to have to make them connect
or parallel something that's happening with one of the characters, like they've done with Duke. I can see what they've done with Duke, but I'm still waiting to see it happen for Audrey and Nathan. And right now that's not happening. And for Audrey, especially like you said, her character is just drifting and not doing anything.
Yeah.
So
if Duke is taking a step forward, she's almost taking a step backwards.
Yeah, and they've pretty well put the Nathan and Audrey relationship back to the start again as well, because she won't even talk. She won't hardly talk to him about anything. So I don't like that. I wish she would have like honest adult conversations with him about what's going on.
Yeah.
So the sooner the psychiatrist goes, the better.
Yeah.
the cop I can probably handle a bit more, because they can always use another guy out in the field. But the psychiatrist is just getting in the way of Audrey and Nathan, and I just think that's a stalling tactic.
Yeah. Hopefully they have plans for the whole season for these characters that we aren't seeing just yet, and when we see them, it will all be clear to us why they have been brought in. Yeah.
So that's pretty well everything I had. Do you have any last thoughts that you want to?
I want to add one thing that hasn't really anything to do with season 3, more with season 1 and 2, because season 2 is now out on DVD, and when I was placing them side by side in my bookcase, I happened to watch the front of them, and it's almost the same picture taken with about a year, I guess, in between. But the 3 characters is standing in the almost exactly the same pose, and it's like the first image, and they have just grown a little, and it's the same image. It's quite interesting to see. So,
spooky?
When you wait for the next episode of this season, you can check that out and figure out why they did that.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So there you go, folks. That's our episode review of the first 3 episodes of Haven. Probably follow it up with a 4th one. Hopefully we're not ruining your enjoyment of the show. And as Hans said, we're still hopeful that things are going to come together. But for myself, I'm a little bit torn on the start of this season so far.
Yeah, I agree. Recently, there was a new Stephen King story published in the magazine Harper's. And this one caught us a little bit by surprise. We didn't know it until it was actually out. And it's called Batman and Robin Have an Altercation. And before I go into what it's about, I have to say I was really surprised about this story. I like it a lot. And I think it shows why King is such a good storyteller. He sets something up and it flips around and takes a totally different turn that you're not prepared to at all. So, and before we start talking about this, maybe we should say that we will spoil this story. So if you haven't read it yet, you should probably do that before you listen to this. Mm-hmm. Okay, everyone who's not read it yet had a chance to leave. So we are getting to know Dougie Sanderson, who is 61 years old, and every Wednesday he visit his father, who's 83 and has Alzheimer's and is in a home, and he takes him out for dinner. And the father is sometimes he is okay and everything goes well, and sometimes he's in a little worse shape and things are not going so well. In this particular night that we are following them, everything goes well and they eat and everything, and they talk about a Halloween night when Dougie was little and his father took him out trick-or-treating, and they were dressed as Batman and Robin, and that's where the title is from, and that's also showing, because when you find the title first time, you have absolutely no clue what this can be about. And if you have any thoughts, it's probably wrong. So when the story unfolds, you understand the title of it, and it's just one of those details that Stephen King is so good at getting together. Anyhow, this night carry on, and they eat and have a pleasant time. But when they are going back to the home and Dougie is going to drop his father off, they are swiped by another car who cuts in front of them, and the driver of that car is getting out and is furious at Dougie, who he thinks is the reason for the accident. And he starts banging on Dougie, and he's about to kill him. And the father steps out and puts a knife in the neck of the other driver. And the story ends pretty much. So it's a strange story. It's like we're just getting a peek into these people's lives. We follow them for a day, and we don't know much about before, and we don't know anything after. We just get a glimpse of a day in their lives, and I thought it was a great story, well told, totally surprise ending, and it shows why King is so good at what he does, I think.
Absolutely. This is, as you said, this is a slice of life, and it takes a scenario that for a lot of us who are baby boomers we're starting to run into the situation where our parents are getting older and their health is failing and they can't really look after themselves in some cases. And in this particular case, Dougie Sanderson, who is 61 himself, was looking after his 83-year-old father who's suffering from Alzheimer's. And you get such a wealth of information in such a short space of writing from Stephen King about Dougie, who seems like he's the dutiful, obedient son, but he was probably never the father's favorite son. It sounds like his other son, Reggie, who he keeps remembering over Dougie. Even though Dougie's the one that's taking him to all these meals all the time at Applebee's and whatnot, his father keeps confusing him with the other son, which kind of leads you to believe that was his favorite son. That's something that is left open for your interpretation. And I would say that this also shows Stephen King's maturity as a writer, which sounds kind of funny to say that because he's been doing it for such a long time, but he's probably couldn't have written this story 20 or 30 years ago, I don't think. Not nearly as well, anyhow, because he really understands the process of aging and mortality, given where he is in his own life right now. He's got his own children, or his kids now have their own kids, so he's a grandfather. And it's showing that life just moves on, and it's really hard to hold on to the pieces sometimes. And Dougie's father was a very powerful figure when he was a younger man, and it's pretty hard for him to see him in this present condition. But when the chips are down and he gets into a situation where, he's in danger, some part of his father that's still in that memory mixed up brain is still able to step forward and save his life. And then the sad thing is, as soon as that moment's over, he goes back to the way he was. So in a way, during the worst of circumstances, Dougie got to see a glimmer of his old father again, but under very bad circumstances or dangerous circumstances, and then it was gone. So it's a very bittersweet story, but yeah, it's kind of like the story that he won, the short story he wrote last year about the two poets. Herman Wouk is Still Alive story that Stephen King wrote. It's got that kind of weight to it of a man that's been around as a writer and as a person for a while, and can make these connections between, like you said, two totally different things. But with that wonderful Stephen King twist of a dutiful son, aging son, taking his even more aged father to dinner and ending up in a horrific situation. Yeah, it's just a gem of a story.
And he always gets me to I want to know more. I want to know what happened. What happened then?
That's right.
But it just
yeah. So.
And that's a good thing, I think, as well, because it's good that you
absolutely always leave them wanting more.
Yeah, and you're left to decide for yourself what's happening. But it's at the same time it's a bit frustrating when you read it and it just ends.
Yeah, well, the best stories always, I think, leave you feeling that way. But it's amazing within, I don't know what this word story is. It's probably 5,000 words or something like that. The amount of character stuff that he can build into it is just blows my mind. So
this is a brilliant example of King's ability to write a story.
And even like the bad guy that they run into, this guy's a real gruff guy, and he calls him the Tat Man. It's kind of like you just see that name and you conjure up all these images on your own. So it's
yeah, you know exactly who he is.
just so well done. Yeah, I really like this story quite a lot.
Yeah, I don't know how hard this story is to get. I had never heard about the Harper magazine.
Oh, it's a fairly well-known magazine here. Yeah.
Okay. It's just my Swedish.
Yeah, your Swedish
magazine.
Isolation.
Yeah. Thank God for the internet.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So, anything else you want to add to
this
one?
No, just try to hunt it down. It is in the, what issue is this in? The Harper
September issue.
September 2012. Yeah. So definitely try to track it down. It's really well worth reading. And a nice surprise that he got under the radar and put out there before any of us heard of it.
Yeah.
The end.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
And as an extra bonus in this episode, we are going to review the 4th episode of Haven called Over My Head. And as usual, when we review stuff, there will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen this episode, you should do that first and then listen to our thoughts. Okay? We just saw it, both of us. And I don't know about you, but I feel this one is a little bit stronger than the 3 first.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it addressed a lot of the issues and things that we were hoping for were going to start happening with the series. So I was very pleasantly surprised with this episode.
Yeah. I liked the weekly Mysterium where the lady was in the car and people got to experience her fears and her accidents.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was quite interesting.
Yes, as we mentioned when we were talking about the first 3 episodes, the case of the week can have a tendency to be less interesting than the season-long arc. But in this case, I thought it had a nice balance between the two, because the problem or the trouble this week was a small trouble. It was just restricted to this one lady who was trapped in the water with her car, and because of that, they were able to flip back and forth between her trouble and the characters a lot more, and so it felt more natural this time.
Yeah, I agree.
It was hard to figure out exactly what was going on, which was good too.
Yeah, and it was interesting that Nathan might make some new friends with his new tattoo.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very interesting, especially with her trouble.
Yeah, exactly, and they were perfect match for each other.
Yes, because she has to wear gloves, because if she touches somebody, they feel pain. And of course, Nathan doesn't feel anything. So So they're setting up another triangle.
Yeah.
It,
I'm a bit worried though that they are starting too many things that they won't be able to resolve in this season.
yeah, I have your same concern. I'm a little worried that they've added another character. So now we've got like
Yeah.
three. We've got the psychiatrist, the cop, and I assume this person. I didn't catch her name, and I can't find it on IMDb right now. But she's part of this group. What did they call themselves?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
They had a
They
name.
were, yeah, but they were looking out for the troubled one.
Right. So, and she's part of this group, and it's interesting that this whole dynamic that she causes pain and Nathan can't feel anything, obviously is going to play into the rest of the season as well.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it because at least she's linked to these tattooed people, so we want to find out about them.
Yeah.
And that's good because we wanted answers this season, and we're starting to get them.
Yeah.
So that will be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yep.
I still have the issue with the psychiatrist. I still think she's
Yeah.
just unnecessary, and I just don't like dynamics where two characters are just creating tension just because these two characters won't talk to each other.
Yeah.
And she's telling the psychiatrist all the things that she should be telling Nathan. I mean, it's nice that we're hearing them, but I just think it's ridiculous that she's not talking to him about these things.
Yeah.
So that dynamic is still bugging me. But the show really did answer a lot of questions this episode and addressed a lot of the issues that you and me were having. We're finding out about the tattooed people, and you wanted more Dave and Vince to be involved in the storyline, and we definitely got that.
Yeah.
And that was nice. They had some nice scenes with the new cop.
Yeah.
Whose name
I don't like the new cop though.
Tommy Bowen. You don't like him?
Yeah. No, I think I don't know. I don't think he fits into the rest of the characters.
Mm.
Maybe he'll grow on me, but I don't like him so far.
Yeah, but I'm ambivalent. I don't think his character's going to be on the show that long because of this whole mystery with he had this investigation into a shooting that he was involved with. So whatever that body was, I think he's not going to be around that long. Yeah. But I did like that because I thought at first they were going to set it up that Dave and Vince were going to be able to blackmail him to get information. Yeah. And he came back and we found out a lot of things about Dave and Vince through Tommy. So that was kind of cool that we found out that Dave and Vince own a lot of the real estate in Haven. So that was interesting. So your wish that Dave and Vince are getting more involved in the story is coming true. So you should be happy with that.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I think that we're getting clues to the Colorado Kid and stuff, but we're not really getting any more. We don't know more than we did before the episode. We're just getting hints, and they aren't telling us that much, I think.
No. Well, we got a good look at the Colorado Kid this time.
Yeah, we did. But I want some straight answers.
Well, I at least we're getting hints in this episode, and I thought that was a big step forward. So I like the fact that Audrey is starting to have these flashbacks and seeing herself in these other time periods. So I thought that was a really good start. I love the dynamic between Dave and Vince and Tommy, and I also like the fact that even like with Nathan's telling these Dave and Vince, you know, it's not a one-way street anymore. You want answers, you have to give me some information too. So I thought that was really well done. And I also really like Duke hanging around with Nathan and Audrey all day long too.
Yeah, I like that, but I didn't really like when he got some superpowers and lift the door. Mm-hmm. I mean, is he going to be like Superman?
Well, he said that a couple times already, right? Like he sort of gets energized when he touches somebody else's blood or whatever.
Yeah, but I don't know. It didn't sit right with me.
Okay. Yeah.
It didn't bother you?
No, because I've seen him do that before, like with the Edge, right?
Yeah.
In the cliffhanger or the last episode from the previous season, he got strong as well. So they've already established that. So.
Yeah. But it's almost like every other that have some problems. They got some problems, and he's more like he's getting superpowers. Mm-hmm. It's not really the same thing, I think.
Well, I think what they're trying to show there, it's kind of like when he gets that strength, it's kind of like the Hulk. He loses control. So in that particular case, he was able to control himself and rescue the woman. But is he going to be able to do that every episode, I guess, is the question.
Okay.
And
as long as he doesn't turn green, so.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So I was really happy with this episode. I thought the show turned a corner.
Yeah.
It was much more focused. It was much more focused this week. I really felt like, even though you said they're still only giving us some hints with the Colorado kid and that, I felt more it was moving forward a lot. I thought a lot of things moved forward in this episode, and I really liked it from that perspective. And plus the trouble was, and I think you called it, like you said, that UFO one, that it was too big. This one was very small. This was a woman trapped in her car, and the smaller troubles seemed to work better for the show.
Yeah, I agree. This one was very nicely done. That they gave us the clue to something happening, but you didn't really know why they were happening. And then when they revealed it, everything fell in place. So
yeah, like
I like that.
I like that one guy with all the little crabs crawling over him. I thought they were spikes.
Yeah.
but but that was well done, and the car that got hit by the water, that was well done. Yeah. So, and I just like the dynamic of Nathan and Duke and Audrey in this episode. Nathan didn't like having Duke around all the time, and so from that perspective. But I still don't like how Audrey and Nathan's relationship is being handled. I think it's just a stalling tactic. If they just talk to each other, I think it would be better. And even though we talked about we didn't agree with Audrey's reasons for asking Nathan to want to kill that guy last episode. Yeah. And at least they addressed it head on in this episode. I still don't agree with her reasons. Like you said, that she's running out of time. And and you called that too, that she feels like she has to get things done because she doesn't have that much time left. So I like that as well, that they addressed it. I still don't like the reasoning. But I was really impressed with this episode. It's kind of like, it was almost like they had listened to our episodes reviewed, which is impossible, of course. But they answered a lot of my concerns from the previous episodes. So I thought that was a very welcome sight to see in this episode.
Yeah, and one thing I found interesting that I hope we will see more of is when Audrey is dreaming and her old boss comes and tells her she has to stop dreaming. Mm-hmm. Do you think he might be involved?
Yeah, I think he is, because he's had communications with sheriff, like the sheriff from the first season and things like that. So I definitely think he's more involved in Haven than we anybody knows at this point.
Yeah.
Outside of even being her Audrey's former boss. So.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of strings to touch.
Yeah. So big improvement this episode. I really like this last episode quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree.
And it was
definitely in the right way.
Yeah, and it was just more tense and better paced, and it was well done.
Yeah, should be interesting to see if they can keep that up in the coming episode.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go, folks.
Okay. Yeah.
We won't be podcasting for or so because Hans, you're off on a long-awaited vacation, right?
Exactly. I'll be visiting the great United States of America.
Well, I hope you have a lot of fun, and by the time this podcast comes out early this week, that will put us in the middle of October, and we probably won't be back until the middle of November with our next podcast, I'm thinking, right?
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
Correct.
So hopefully there'll be a lot of King things to keep you guys all busy while we're taking a short sabbatical.
Yeah, and hopefully they will give you a lot of questions that you have to send to us to get answered.
Absolutely. Alrighty, so Hans, you have a great time on your vacation.
Yep.
And to all our listeners out there,
stay safe, but
stay scared.